Hey guys, welcome to the next tutorial of ethical hacking and penetration testing via Kali Linux. So in this tutorial we will be learning about the installation and configuration of Kali Linux, and we'll also learn about what actually ethical hacking is and why is it actually called as ethical, and what are the different types of attacks that can be done and how we could do to prevent it. So before I proceed, because that would be a long conversation, so before I proceed with that, let's just go ahead and start something in the background that would be useful to us, since that would take a very long time. And what I'm talking about right now is installation of Kali Linux. So one thing we need to keep in mind is that I can also go ahead and install this directly on my operating system, but that is not what I would do, since I assume that you are just a beginner with the Linux. I won't ask you to go and install the whole operating system on your PC or your laptop. The reason being that if you don't know what you're doing and if you just try to play with it, then unnecessarily you will be in a lot of trouble. That is the reason. You don't know how the system works. For example, let's say I've been working on a Windows machine since, let's say, around past 7 or 8 years maybe, and since I'm working since past 7 or 8 years, I know how exactly it works. Let's say, for example, I know why there are system files over here and what each and every system file mean. Like say I can go into Windows system 32 file, and I know that if I delete either of the programs, what will happen. So these are the driver store for my drivers and group policy users, so I know what is what exactly. But if you're a new person, if you're just a noob, and if you're trying to go ahead and try to run the Kali Linux on your whole PC, the first thing that might happen is that it may not get installed, because maybe sometimes your laptops are not bootable, not dual bootable. I'm not telling not dual bootable, but there are some specifications set by Microsoft nowadays which are crackable, but by the time you listen to this video, I don't know if something else comes in, so then you might not be able to dual boot or be able to single boot Kali Linux. The reason being that there is something that is UEFI set by the Microsoft, which only allows you to install the Microsoft Windows 8 or any newer version, 8.1 or similar versions. So that is the reason why I won't be asking you, unless you are an expert in dual booting or installing systems, unless you are not a system administrator, don't go ahead and mess with this, because it can actually go ahead and create a hell lot of problems for you. That's the reason. So that's the reason I would be asking you to go ahead and run it on your VMware workstation. I have the workstation 9. I have not yet updated it. There are workstation 10 and 11, I believe. And workstation is, can say you need to go ahead and buy the workstation, but if you want something similar to that, you can use VirtualBox. If you don't want to unnecessarily go ahead and spend your money, you can go ahead and download the VirtualBox, which I'll just go ahead and show it to you. And you can go over here. This is the VirtualBox, and in case just you don't know what VirtualBox is and what Kali Linux is, Kali Linux is based on Debian, and it is an operating system which has loads and loads of penetration testing tools. Okay, before I proceed, let me check if my system is working perfectly. Okay. Perfect. Advance. Proceed. Save. Now it should work, I believe. Okay, perfect. So we are here, the VirtualBox. So you can see that VirtualBox runs on Windows, Linux, Macintosh, Solaris host, and a lot of other operating systems. And I assume that you are installing it under your Windows, so that's the reason I asked you VirtualBox. If you're running it under Macintosh, then you can surely go ahead and use the VMware player, VMware is also as good as VirtualBox, but I support VMware. But the only thing is that you need to go ahead and spend your money if you're trying to buy a workstation. If it's just a player, just a single machine, then you can straight away go ahead and use the player. Okay, so if you want to download, you can go ahead and check the downloads option over here, and you have it for different versions of Windows, for 64 as well as 32-bit versions. And as of in my system, I have an 8 GB RAM, so that's the reason I would be going ahead and using the 64-bit version. So you can go ahead and download it, everything from here. And besides, you also need to go and install the VMware tools or VirtualBox tools, whatever they have inside them. I am not much in concern with VirtualBox, because I hardly use it, or I don't even use it sometimes. The most thing which I use is the VMware. So I'll just go ahead and close, and just in case, you can also go ahead and download the VMware. I'll go ahead and show it to you. And yes, So this is VMware. It's just a virtualization platform that goes ahead and converts your that means you can go ahead and run a computer inside a computer, an operating system inside an operating system. So what I would do is that, let's say if I have a 6 or 8 GB RAM in my laptop or computer, then I can just go ahead and run this and assign 2 GB of its memory to my Linux or either of the operating systems. And the best part of Kali Linux is that it even runs in as less as 512 MB RAM. That's its best part. But I suggest that you should not run it in a 512 MB RAM. The reason being that if you're trying to go ahead and crack passwords or password hashes using that, it will be quite difficult for you because it requires a graphic card and a good processor to go ahead and run that. So since you are just learning Kali Linux and these are the basics for that, I'm only going to teach you how to install and do the basic stuff over there, so that once you are completely sure that you know what you're doing and the basic Linux commands and what kernels are and how to hack into them, only then I'll suggest you to go ahead and install the whole operating system so that you can go ahead and mess with anything you want and you will still be knowing what you're doing. So to come back, I'll just go ahead and show you over here. You can go to downloads version. We have vSphere over here, but we would be needing the VMware, so you can go ahead and check over here. These are for okay, here it is, VMware player. Perfect. So I'll just go ahead and open that. So these are the two versions, one for Microsoft Windows and one for Linux, and these are 64-bit versions. If you want, you can go back and check, and you will find the normal means 32-bit versions as well, and these are compatible, so you have the drivers and tools for them and open source, just in case you are using Linux. And you might be wondering that if you are using Macintosh, then what can you do? So if you are using Macintosh, then you can go ahead and download the VMware Fusion, and I'll just go ahead and open this. And okay, sorry, this was the VMware Fusion. Perfect. And just in case you want to buy, you can also go ahead and buy the workstation. Workstation is far more better than the VMware, the normal VMware. The reason being that workstation goes ahead and you can go ahead and connect 2 virtual machines at one time only. So that's far better, but you can do the same thing in VirtualBox and without spending any kind of money. So, but I support VMware because it has an extended support. That's the reason. So yes, you can go ahead and download these over here. These are for Mac and these are for the Windows. So yes, you can go ahead and download them. So once you have downloaded virtual VMware, you can just go ahead and click next, and it's quite easy. You don't actually have to do anything. Just go ahead and double click on the installer file, and once you have installed, you will see this VMware workstation. If you are using let's say VirtualBox, then I won't be able to help you, but there is quite a suitable topic I can show you if you don't know how to install it. How to install VirtualBox. Perfect. You can see over here there are images, and just to be precise, if you don't know how to install a VirtualBox, I don't even think that you should be learning this tutorial. The reason being that installing these programs are much easier than going ahead and learning this. So once you have installed these things, there are specific you can say as ways as to how they have given how you can go to install that. So once you have installed, I assume that you have the VMware. After that, we need to go ahead and download the Kali Linux. So I'll just go ahead and download the Kali Linux, and I'll just go ahead and open it over here. And just to be clear that once you're using Kali Linux, there may be a lot of bugs because previously this was known as Backtrack when it started. And after on, they later got converted. They stopped at Backtrack 5, and they started distributing Kali Linux because it's much better than the Backtrack version, as this is based on Debian. And you can see over here that this Kali Linux even works on cell phones such as Nexus 5, Nexus 6, or even the previous versions. As you can see, Kali Linux Net Hunter on these devices. And you can also install it on your Raspberry Pi, Odroid, Qbox, and a lot of other things. So in these are the penetration testing tutorials. You can also go ahead and search them in case you don't understand this. And to download the Kali Linux, you can go over here. These are the SA1 sum file. Just go ahead and check them if you're unable to go and download a proper file. And these are the proper versions of downloading. Mini means you just have to go ahead and again install everything once you have downloaded this file. And as of me, I would be using the 32-bit version of Kali Linux since I am going to install it in a VMware. And you can go ahead and download these over here. There are torrent options as well as ISO. And once you go ahead and download them, these are the latest version 1.1.0a, the same version which I would be using. Just let me check before I, okay, perfect. 1.1.0, and that's what I would be using. Perfect. And once we have downloaded that, we would need one more thing. Since I assume that you have at least 4 GB of RAM to run this, because either you have 4 GB of RAM or you should install the whole of Kali Linux under your operating system if you have 2 GB of RAM or less. The reason I'm saying that is because we are going to run a total of 3 operating systems. That is the main host, that means this whole operating system. Inside that we are going to run Kali Linux over here, and we're also going to run Windows 7. Because we are going, the Windows 7 will be our target machine, and Kali Linux will be our main machine, attacker's machine, through which we would be going ahead and attacking the Windows 7. And the Windows 7 version which I would be using right now, it would be the one, it would be the first one, and I won't be using the Service Pack 1 activated. Service Pack 1, the reason being that you can say it as, let's say, it is, you can also go ahead and install Service Pack 1. The only reason I'm using is because I don't have it, and I would just recommend that you don't go ahead and start the Defender. If you have it, it's not a problem, but I would suggest turning off the Defender, since I assume that you are just a noob who is going to learn through these tutorials. And if you're using a Defender, a Windows Defender on, if you're keeping that on, then there might be a different way to go ahead and, let's say, penetrate that particular operating system. So that's the reason I'm not going to teach you how to go ahead and bypass the Windows Defender. So yes, so when you have all of these 3 things, after that we can go ahead and start with the installation and configuration of our operating systems.